Probably gonna be a bird yelling in the background of this entire video. But it's nice out, so I want to film outside. And that's because today I want to talk about some of my own personal signs and omens. So naturally, this video is going to be 100% pure UPG, or unverified personal gnosis, which means it's just all things that I have come to personally, intuitively associate as signs or symbols, usually for my chosen deities that I work with. So for the most part, these are animals that I've come to associate personally with different deities. The one that I want to start with overall is what I like to call, or what some ancient Romans and maybe Druids used to call, reading the auspices, which are reading signs, symbols, and omens into the flight patterns of birds. For me, this is just overall also a part of practicing mindfulness, or just being in the present moment. And a lot of times for me, that just looks like driving to work in the morning and taking the time at the stoplight or walking into the building just to make note of, like, what birds do I see around or hear? And do I associate those birds with anyone or anything in particular? Or even the number or the direction of the birds, especially here when the geese are migrating around. You know, you'll see that classic V formation, but geese specifically, and for no reason in particular, I have come to associate with Frigg. Maybe because they're just very protective, family-oriented birds. I believe they mate for life. I'll fact check that. I believe they're birds that pair for life. You know, they're always very protective over their young. And yeah, I don't know why, but I just came to see them as kind of an embodiment of that, like, hearth, home, family, protective, maternal energy that a goddess figure like Frigg would have. And similarly, herons, particularly blue herons, I associate personally with Njord. I think because they also mate for life. The male of the species will look after the young, and they're often found near waterways or nesting along rivers or lakes or coastlines, and that is also an element that, and a location that I tie in very strongly with Njord. And similarly, bald eagles I have come to associate with Njord. I think maybe just as an outstretch of me personally, not only seeing hawks, and in particular red-tailed hawks, as a personal good omen of safety and protection, but now I've also come to associate them strongly with Freya. And so I think maybe as just an outstretch of that, my brain went like, oh, what's a bird of prey that's one tier above a hawk? An eagle. And so sometimes when we're driving around, especially to gatherings, we'll see a lot of hawks and eagles. And like herons and geese, eagles also mate for life, and the male will sit on the egg while it's incubating and really look after the young and take part in the raising of the family. So that's also a trait that I just associate strongly with Njord as a father to the golden twins, Freyr and Freya. And to bring it back to Freya real quick, along with hawks, I also associate honeybees with her, and I call them little Freya friends, just because she's associated with amber more strongly, but honey is also amber colored and is used very prominently in mead making and brewing, which is not only something that would have been the provenance of the woman as head of household to make and brew beer and mead, but is also occasionally used in the practice of witchcraft and satyr magic. So all that to say that I associate honey with Freya for those reasons, and bees with Freya, And I think also because Freya, as a fertility and nature aspect goddess, I also tie to flowers. I give flowers to her a lot as an offering. And you know, what do bees like? Flowers. So they're also my little Freya friends. Somewhere along the way, I started to associate monarch butterflies with hell. And again, I can't really say why or what particular reasoning is, aside from my own UPG and or just personal outlook or hope for the afterlife. As someone who, you know, if I didn't believe I was going to go in Folkvanger to be with Freya, the next best thing would be Helheim, which is not this really harsh afterlife of like hell or torment. I see it more as just a shadow of life here on Midgard, but where things are maybe a little less bright, a little less flavorful, but everything is still there, and you know, everyone is still there, just kind of living their best lives in her realm. And as a part of that, I like to think that if we're looking at things from an animistic point of view, where everything in nature and in creation has an energy or a spirit to it, then I think minor life forms like insects, animals, butterflies might also have a soul or like a shade or an umbra, to use the Greek terminology. Just because I think hell does want the best for her subjects for the most part, and bringing things like butterflies into her realm just to add some brightness and some comfort and some prettiness and, you know, literally liven up the place might be something she would do or enjoy. All of that to say, in summary, that I came to view monarch butterflies, you know, as her being the ruler of Helheim, the monarch butterfly, as just kind of a little messenger from her. Not really signifying anything in particular, just kind of a, hey, what's up? Thinking of you. Got my eye on you. Similarly, this is just kind of general folklore, especially in the Midwest where I live. And whether you're pagan or not, it's often said that if you see a red cardinal, it's an ancestor or a spirit of someone who's passed on coming back to visit you. So I think that's just something that I don't know where it comes from, but it is known. And for me, in my own personal UPG, again, as someone living in the Midwest and experiencing all of the cycles of the seasons, and with going into, you know, spring right now, in spite of how warm it is April, we are just getting into spring in the warmer months here. I associate seeing the very first robin of the year with like my official sign that spring has arrived. So whenever I see the first robin that I have noticed back in my area and in my neighborhood, that to me just signifies that spring has also officially arrived. Along with Vanir and messenger spirits from deities, I have noticed that in particular, whenever I'm going to do something for Landvatir, or going to a gathering and like going on a nature walk, or even going to my local park in the middle of town, I always see a deer. So to me, over the years, that has just come to personally signify either Landvatir spirits or Freyr in particular, as a god associated with the forest and perhaps hunting and animals. Last but certainly not least, as this has come to be what used to be a very rare occurrence in my life, but ever since I took up the practice of paganism, it seems to be very frequent, and that is sun showers. Just the other day, in fact, we had a little thunder shower roll through town, and I went out here and stood in my backyard and literally watched as the sun was out. Raindrops were falling on my head, but there was also just this rumble of thunder and this little thundercloud in the background. And to me, as a Norse pagan, that is Freyr and Thor like kind of tag teaming the weather and tag teaming to just like say what's up and come through and fertilize all of the plants and the crops. And so there might be like a cheeky little thunderstorm, but nothing crazy or severe. It's just one of those little pop-up little thunder showers that's just enough to give some hydration and some nourishment to the land. And occasionally that will even happen while the sun is still shining. So even the Eddas say Freyr is a god of the sun and the rain. So I see that as just a sign that Thor and Freyr are just rolling through town to say what's up. That pretty much wraps it up for my own personal signs, omens, and auspices, whatever you want to call them. Please leave a comment down below to let me know what some of your own are. And until next time, stay classy, pagan.